Well, hello, everyone. So today's discussion or presentation is about the first phase of digestion. It's called the cephalic phase. We're going to define this phase and look at the parasympathetic aspect of it. Then we're going to look at a condition called hypochlorhydria. And this is more common than we think, and it is defined as low stomach acid or low HCl. So this is not medical advice. This is educational only. And with that said, let's look at some statistics and the prevalence of low stomach acid. Now, if you look at this graph, it's trending upward since 1970. And it is measuring the condition of low stomach acid throughout the years. So in 1970, we had less than 5% of the population with low stomach acid conditions. And fast forward to today, and we have almost 50% of the population with low stomach acid. So this is a problematic now, and it needs to be looked at. So what is cephalic acid? So digestion begins in the brain. The cephalic phase is the first phase of digestion. And it is triggered by the sight, smell, taste, hear, thought of, or expectation of food coming in. So the best example I can give you is cooking at home. When we cook at home, we are anticipating, we're going through all these senses parasympathetically, processing the food and producing what's called ACH or acetylcholine. It is a neurotransmitter that travels downstream via the vagus nerve all the way to the stomach and stimulates some of the parietal cells that produce chloric acid. So we're going to revisit this a little bit more, but for now, I just wanted to define what is the cephalic phase. The best case scenario is cooking at home. The worst case scenario is takeouts, because takeouts, the food is already packaged and you skip the whole phases of sight and smell and the presence of food and the parasympathetic approach to stimulate the parietal cells. So how about stomach acid? What does it do? Why enough of it or not enough of it is a root cause of many of the problems or digestive issues that we have. It is essential for food breakdown, absorption of nutrients. It kills bacteria and prevents bacteria overgrowth. If we don't have enough stomach acid, we don't convert some of the enzymes that break down proteins. The enzyme that I'm talking about is pepsin. Pepsin is the active form, but before it becomes active, it has to be facilitated by HCl acting on pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is just pepsin in inactive form. So pepsinogen plus HCl plus the right acidity, we get pepsin. Then we can break down proteins. If we don't have enough pepsin, that's when we see protein in the stool. So that's a problem. The other thing is we kill harmful bacteria if we have enough acidity, and the lack of acidity it causes bacteria overgrowth in the stomach. So that becomes a problem. So some of the clinical symptoms, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You can just pause the video and look at it. Bloating is a symptom for low acidity in the stomach. Food intolerances and insensitivities. B12 malabsorption. And the reason why is because not enough intrinsic factors from the parietal cells because ACH didn't act on them in due time. So there's a lot of things that goes in absorption. And without enough HCl, we miss out on zinc and calcium and many of the nutrients. Acid reflux is a symptom. GERD is another symptom. And some of the causes are chronic stress. Now, when you're chronically stressed, you're not in parasympathetic state. you are in fight or flight state. So you miss out on the neurotransmitter ACH. So you're not setting the stage for proper digestion. So that's a problem. The other thing is autoimmune conditions. Pernicious anemia is an indicator. Pernicious anemia is often correlated to B12 malabsorption, which is not the case. It's intrinsic factor not being produced due to this phase being skipped, the cephalic phase. ACH did not act on the parietal cells, and because of that, intrinsic factor is not produced, and without intrinsic factor, we don't absorb B12, okay? So I'm going to talk about that a little more in the next slide. SIBO is another indicator. Alcohol consumption is also a cause for low stomach acid. So there's a lot of stuff to digest here. So you can pause the video and take a look at it. Now let me go down here so I can diagnose some of this stuff, starting from parasympathetic and the production of ACH neurotransmitter. Now, it all begins with ACH being transmitted, and it's talked about the cephalic phase and the production of ACH in large quantities because of the presence of food or the cooking process instead of just buying food already packaged, already made. So ACH acts on all the cells in the stomach. So let's start with the parietal cells. When it stimulates the parietal cells, it starts producing ACL. And it also produces intrinsic factor to get ready for B12 that we will break down from protein. The intrinsic factor will bind to B12 and it will be absorbed in the small intestines. If we don't have intrinsic factors, we don't absorb B12. So when we are diagnosed with B12 pernicious or B12 malabsorption or lack of B12, perhaps it's not a B12, it's a matter of intrinsic factor not being produced. So we need to look at that. Mucus is highly important because it protects the stomach lining and it prevents ulcers. The G cells are also triggered by ACH to produce gastrin to act on the parietal cells to produce more of HCl. So the quantity that we're looking at ultimately is 30% or higher to give ourselves enough chance to digest food and turn pepsinogen into pepsin to break down protein. Okay, so the parasympathetic and the cephalic phase is very important. And without it, we don't have enough ACH. And without enough ACH, we miss out on all this activities in the stomach, and we don't have enough HCl, and hence malabsorption, bacteria overgrowth, and not enough pepsin to break down protein. Okay, so we keep moving down, and let's look at this SIBO. So when we look at SIBO, it is always thought of that it's the bacteria from the large intestines migrating upstream into the small intestines. That is not the primary cause. The bacteria migrating from the stomach downstream into the small intestine is the primary cause. Which means if HCl is low, bacteria are overgrowing in the stomach. And when we have bacteria overgrowth in the stomach, we will most definitely have bacteria downstream overgrowth in the small intestines. So how much HCl is ultimately the magic number that we look for that should be produced in the stomach parasympathetically is 30%. So 30% to give ourselves enough chance to digest our food and prevent SIBO, GERD, and poor digestion. So here I give you the example of home-cooked meals versus takeout. Which one boosts digestion? The answer is simply home-cooked meal because of all the sensors that we go through. In takeout meals, you have less sensory stimulation before eating, and hence you miss out on ACH and the stimulation of the parietal cells, and the production of HCl may not be adequate. So some of the lab biomarkers to assess our acidity in the stomach. Now, the gold standard is what's called Heidelberg stomach acid. This is not widely spread test. You may not find it in the conventional way or conventional medicine, but you find this in functional medicine. There is a clinic in Manchester, New Hampshire, Alchemy Clinic. They offer this test. Another one is organic acid test. And you can get this via GI Map or Genova Diagnostics. It will go over the acidity and gives you an indication on the grade level of your acidity in the stomach. Comprehensive stool analysis can also do the job and show you your acid production in the stomach and chloric acid. And I move on to what helps increase some of the natural way to increase HCl production. So if we obviously, the number one is we want to more of the cephalic phase, and that's pretty much cooking our meals. We want to avoid takeouts, apple cider vinegar, ginger, lemon water, and there is a vitamin called betaine HCl with pepsin. Now, this is a supplement that can help boost stomach acid. If you have ulcers, you may want to avoid this. So that's obviously, this is not my go-to. I'd rather you do things naturally before you take any HCl supplement. You want to stay hydrated, but not during meals. So often we see people drinking, 20 ounces or so, large quantity while eating. That's not efficient. And simply because when you drink a lot of water during eating or feeding, you're diluting HCl. So you want to drink before or after. Okay. Stress, obviously, you want to keep that in the low amount. Just so, as we discussed, chronic stress acts directly on the vagus nerve and reduces ACH, which means the parietal cells would not be stimulated, which means low HCl. So we want to keep chronic stress under control. Okay, some of the references, this is where I got all this stuff from. You can dive into it and see what you can get. And if you have any questions, please drop your questions in the comments section. I'll be more than happy to address them. And that's about it, folks. Thank you so much, and goodbye.